Jay's 2 cents here on the vlog channel. Haven't vlogged in a few days. I figure I'd let some time elapse before I do more vlogs. That way there's actually more to talk about. When was my last vlog? Thursday of last week, I think? Something like that. Anyway, a couple things to talk about, and you're probably going to hear the windshield wipers going. It is actually rainy here. We need the rain badly. Unfortunately, the whole infrastructure floods when it rains here because it's not used to it. Especially when we get as much rain as we just had. Anyway, just dropped the kid off at school, and a couple things I want to talk about, like I said. One, the wife and I spent better part of the day yesterday at the hospital thinking we were getting ready to have our baby, because we went to her doctor's checkup and her blood pressure was really high, like really high. And then they did her checkup and all that and said, okay, well, it said you calm down a little bit, and we'll take your blood pressure again at the end of the appointment. So it was like maybe 20 minutes later, they took her blood pressure again and it was still high. And they said, okay, well, we're going to send you across the street to the hospital, because her women's clinic that she goes to for all of her OBGYN stuff is across the street from the hospital. So it's really convenient, at least. And so they said, well, we're going to send you across the hospital, or across the way to the hospital. We're going to get you evaluated, and if the blood pressure doesn't come down, then we're going to induce labor. High blood pressure is really dangerous for the mom. There's actually a couple things that can go wrong. One, it can cause strokes in the mom, or two, the high blood pressure can actually choke off the baby's blood supply and kill the baby, so we don't want that. And Miss Jay's 2 cents was real upset because she doesn't want to be induced. Last time she was induced, she had a 36-hour labor. She really doesn't want to go through all that again, but at the same time, she doesn't want to add risk to the baby. So we went over there, and it took them about, geez, another 5 hours for them to get all the blood work done. And she was, in the maternity, all checked in basically, and everything checked out fine with her blood work. There was no protein in her urine, and there was no, there's a bunch of other crap they look for in the blood that tells them if her blood pressure's been high, and everything checked out normal. So they actually gave her the option. They said, well, do you want to induce since you're here, or do you want to go home? And she opted to go home. And they'll only let her go another week or so at the most, because she's already at 40 weeks pregnant. And her doctor doesn't let them go past 41 because there's just way increased risk to the baby and to the mom. And so they are not going to let her go past 40 or 41 weeks. So if she doesn't have the baby by this time next week, then they're going to induce her anyway. So either way, in a week, I'm having a baby. Something like that. So that's where we are in the baby news. The other thing I wanted to talk about was last year, actually no, I guess it was like March of this year. I did a video on this channel saying that I wasn't very good with money, and I talked about how the wife and I had gotten pretty deep in debt. We owed like everybody money. The babies, or not the baby, but the little Jay's doctor. We had doctor's bills, we had tax liabilities, we had 11 credit cards that were maxed out. I mean, it was just an ugly situation. I felt like everything and everybody we knew we owed money to. I mean, we were just so bad with our money, and we make good money. And it's just bad management of the money got us to where we were like, oh no, we don't make enough to survive, blah, blah, blah. But I talked about going through Dave Ramsey's financial peace courses, and he's really good at explaining finances and not how to finance, but how to twist your mind into the way you look at money. And so we went through that course last year. And then in March of this year, I talked about how we were working on paying off our credit cards. I think we had just paid off one credit card. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to circle back to that, because that seemed to hit home with a lot of people. I think it hits home, especially with the economy. A lot of people who are barely making it by or not making it by, they were interested to hear, like, wow, people who make good money are still having money problems. And obviously the root of the problem is not the amount of money you make, it's the way you handle your money. And so I just wanted to kind of circle back to that and say, in September, I mean, this is now December, but in September, we paid our last credit card payment. We actually paid off all 11 credit cards, the doctor's bill, and the tax liability. We just paid, we got it all paid off through discipline and diligence, and that was probably the biggest accomplishment I've made in my adult life, was digging ourselves into a massive pile of debt and then climbing out. I've been in debt since I was 18. I was 18 years old, got my first credit card. I remember my very first purchase on credit too, and you guys will probably laugh. It was a blue PlayStation 2 controller. Or was it a PlayStation? I think it was a PlayStation controller. A blue PlayStation controller, yeah. Because we were talking 1999. That sounds so long ago. Anyway, yeah, that was my first purchase. It was a console controller. And, yeah. So now we no longer use credit cards. We haven't touched a credit card in over a year. As we paid them off, we closed them. And hopefully those windshield wipers aren't too annoying, but I can't stop them. And you guys can hear my wipers probably need to be changed. They're like... They don't smear though, I can see. Anyway, no more credit cards for us. We've been closing them all off. We kept one credit card open that had a high limit, and that's only for when I travel. When I travel places like CES, and hopefully this next year I'll get to travel to more places like PAX and whatnot. I mean, credit cards are required for reservations and rental cars and stuff, and that's one thing I don't really agree with Dave Ramsey, is he was like, bullshit, you can rent a car and you can get a hotel and stuff without a credit card. I have traveled a lot. Now, I'm not saying he hasn't, obviously he travels the world, but I have traveled a lot for my company, and every single time it says no debit cards for the deposit. And in fact, I was standing in a kiosk once at 1:30 in the morning in Rochester, New York. I was standing at Enterprise getting a car, and there was a woman at the kiosk next to me who had no credit cards. She lived a credit-free, debt-free life, and she was telling the guy, she's like, I don't have a credit card. She's like, just charge my debit card for the $300. And he was like, I'm sorry, we don't take debit card. We cannot accept a debit card for the deposit. We can't take cash either. It has to be a credit card. She was like, I don't own a credit card. And she had even prepaid the entire rental ahead of time. Sometimes you don't pay for the rental till after, depending on how you book. She prepaid the entire rental. They kept her money, and they wouldn't give her the car because she didn't have a credit card. It's 1:30 in the morning, and she said she had a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive to Syracuse, or whatever it is, hour and a half drive to Syracuse, and she could not get a car. She was stranded, middle of the night in the airport, no one to call. I mean, so yeah, that's why we kept the big credit card, because it'll just be simple for deposits and things, but it's a really good feeling not having a credit card. And it's funny too, because you can tell the cultures are so different between America and other countries, because when I did that video, a lot of the people who were like, oh yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from, or yeah, I've been in debt myself, or yeah, I'm trying to get out of debt, we're all domestic and Americans. And then a lot of the people who are like, wow, I've never used a credit card, or I've never owned a credit card, that's so weird to me, we're all like European. And I think it's just funny, the culture difference. It just seemed like, and maybe I'm wrong, but it just seemed like a lot of Europeans were like, wow, we don't use credit cards out here that much. But in America, it's like, in fact, there was a study that shows that credit card ads, they have the highest ad budget out of any budget or any institution in the United States. Credit cards, the amount of billions that those companies spend on advertising is insane, because that's how they make their money, is through you sign up for the card and interest rates. It's not like they sell a service or a commodity. They sell, well, credit, which is funny because it's fake money. It's money that doesn't really exist that they're charging you on. And I just found it extremely interesting, the difference in comments that you guys had on that. But anyway, I just wanted to report we are 100% credit card debt free. We're now paying, I'm paying $1,000 a month right now on my cars to pay them off fast. I want them paid off like as fast as possible. In fact, one of the cars will be paid off in April, I believe April, and that'll be a year early, which isn't too bad considering we just barely started paying on the cars with the debt snowball type of action. So anyway, yep, don't consider myself any sort of financial expert, but it just seems to be, I don't know, when people hear about that story, some of the other financial experts we know, they just make a huge deal over the fact that we've gotten out of credit card debt, because I guess credit card debt and debt in general has become like the culture here, at least in America. It's pretty sad, actually. When I see credit card ads and things, it kind of bothers me now, because I now look at it from a different perspective of, oh, I know what you're trying to do. I know your game and I know your game plan. And everyone who, if you've ever, you know you have the wrong way of thinking if you have ever gotten a credit card to get something that you could not afford to pay for with cash. What's the difference of saying, and I'm gonna use things like computers and stuff. I'm not talking about cars. Like cars, you have to get on credit, obviously. I mean, most people cannot go and pay for a car with cash. That's our plan when we replace our Durango, is to go pay for that car with cash, but we're saving for it, which is what's going into my segue here is, if you've ever gotten a credit card offer in the mail and you signed up for the card specifically to go and buy something that you could not afford at the moment before that card came, guess what? You still can't afford it. That's the reality. You still can't afford it. You're going to pay high interest rates. Let's say it's a computer. You say you want that $1,000 computer and you're, oh man, I really want this computer. It's Black Friday. Oh, look, I got this credit card offer. If I get this credit card, I can buy that computer. Well, what's the difference of saying, okay, I'm going to pay for this computer and I'm going to spend the next 6 months paying it off? What's the difference of just saying, I'm going to take the next 6 months, save, pay for this computer, and have not paid the interest, which means you're paying more for the computer than what the computer's worth? And don't give me that whole 6 months interest-free crap. Credit cards always find a way to charge you that interest. Or you're going to use the card again for something else, not pay off the original balance, and then you're hit with 24.99% interest. Stupid. Anyway, just thought we'd talk a little bit about finances and a little baby update today. So it's been Jay2Cents over here on the vlog channel. Just talking about my life. That's all this vlog channel's for, is just kind of working it in as a little venting platform. And apparently a lot of you guys seem to think the same way I do. It's kind of scary. All right, see you in the next one.